Love you, Linda. Love you.
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing "Oh Happy Day."
One word prayer. Justice, where are you?
And Just to Serve TV is on the air. Hit the like button. How about that? Huh?
Hey, smash that subscribe button and hit the like button, hit the notify and the share, please.
Michael Bryant here. Hey, Linda Kenny Bodden.
Hi. Normally we do that at the end, but I think we want to do it at the beginning because we have such a special guest, such a great guest, such a wonderful guest, our great friend who's a great lawyer and understands the Constitution. And we can't wait to speak to him. But I think you have one rip and read before we start, right?
You know, I'm certainly working on it, and it's an ongoing story, but just to make it official. Okay, back in Dedham, Norfolk County Court, where I am not today. I don't know if I could go to one of these hearings without pulling all my hair out. This was the continuation from Tuesday of the hearing in which the federal investigation, which sprinkled into the Karen Read case and led to all those lovely Michael Proctor texts, is now being fought over between 3 or 4 other cases, the Walsh case, the Miles King case, etc. Because these defense attorneys want this material, thinking they're going to find a treasure trove as they did in the Karen Read case. They've been blocked by the federal court, and now there's an attempt to come up with some sort of schedule. So I'll just boil it down to the latest. The federal court has allowed a 45-day window within which to resolve whatever they're going to resolve. The key, in my opinion, is that a lot of this stuff has been shared already with Laura McLaughlin, who was on the defense team in Karen Read 1 and Karen Read 2. She's seen the stuff. There needs to be a third party that goes through this and decides what is and isn't.
You mean Laura McLaughlin was on the prosecution team?
Yes, for the DA.
Wrong team.
Yeah.
You had her on the wrong team.
So it's like, you know, as I've said, the fox is not supposed to be going through the material to then, you know, hand out from the decimated henhouse. So they're working their way through it, and I'm comfortable that the defendants are glad that it's just moving forward, you know, because that's who knows what's in there. Remember, it's not just the investigation that the Karen Read folks got. Maybe there was a second grand jury. Maybe there's a broader investigation that was inapplicable to the Karen Read case, but because Proctor's got his dirty little fingers in everything, maybe it's applicable to one of these other cases. And so that's the upshot. They're working it out. They've got a schedule. Monday was the deadline to destroy this material. That's not going to happen. So
yeah.
All right. So as everybody knows, we've been following the Nicholas Kassotis case with the help of Katnott Williams, who's done a fine job on that, and of course our friend Doug Weinstein representing the defendant in the case. You know, crazy day today. Things were just lightning speed with the way the day played out, and this is
thank God for Doug. I wouldn't want to have another extra day.
I think that I see there's Doug's shoulder, but here's how this ultimately played out.
I ask that the deputy court publish the verdict.
In the Superior Court of Liberty County, State of Georgia, case number 2024 R-67, State of Georgia versus Nicholas James Cassotis. Count 1, malice murder, guilty. Count 2, felony murder, guilty. Count 3, aggravated assault, guilty. Count 4, concealing death of another, guilty. Count 5, possession of a knife during the commission of a felony, guilty. Count 6, possession of a tool for the commission of a crime, guilty. Count 7, possession of a tool for the commission of a crime, guilty. Count 8, possession of a tool for the commission of a crime, guilty. Count 9, possession of a tool for the commission of a crime, guilty. Count 10, possession of tools for the commission of a crime, guilty. Count 11, removal of the body parts from the scene of the death, guilty. Count 12, tampering with evidence, guilty. On this 14th day of August 2025.
All right. Well, certainly a gentleman who we've always appreciated and appreciate more so today because he's coming on during not the best day, I can imagine. Doug, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. As you told me when we were chatting earlier, texting, you'll come on with the good and the bad, basically, and we appreciate that. So,
so do our viewers, Doug, as you can see. Everybody loves you. Most defense attorneys, when they're in cases that people don't like, they hate the defense attorney. They just adore you for defending him, and we do too.
That's kind of everybody. And Linda and Michael, thank you for having me on. And yeah, I meant it. I can't just go on the press when I win. That wouldn't be right. So taking the loss.
I think we've lost Doug.
Yeah, we did. Are you muted there, Doug? Or
now
you're back.
That.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a car thing. Sorry about that. Can you hear me still?
Yep, got you.
Yeah, gotcha.
I apologize.
But look at all these comments. You're amazing. They love you.
And Doug, up until there was a moment in your final cross-examination of the GBI agent, you had a punchy finish with all of the holes that were clearly a problem for the prosecution, and that is no cause of death, no body, no location, all of those things. It was the crescendo you're looking for,
right?
But your client wanted to tack on a couple of questions. Interesting moment. Thoughts?
As I do not have to tell both of you, client management is always an issue in a case. My client in this case has a JD, he has an LLM. He's incredibly intelligent. He has experience as a defense attorney and a prosecutor. So while he was very good and understood that he has to defer to me on trial strategy, I felt that since his life was on the line, at times that I should honor some of his wishes.
Interesting way to put it. He really. What's amazing to me, though, this. First of all, he's a babe magnet. We have 3 wives. We have the 3rd wife, right? With the first wife, we have the 2nd wife who he's alleged to have killed and cut up, including, I gather, cutting off the head so there'd be no dental identification and all. And then a 3rd wife. I know you can't reveal client confidences, but as I've told people, that it's the client's choice whether they want to plead guilty or not guilty, client's choice whether they want a judge or a jury trial, client's choice whether or not they want to testify. And there's not much you can do about that. He wanted to testify clearly and tell his story. Did you, were you able to have input in that decision, even if you can't tell us what the input was?
Well, obviously I have input on all the decisions that, certainly all the ones that I'm entitled to make, and any one that he's entitled to make. All my clients give me input into that. But I think, as you may have pointed out, ultimately it's his decision as to whether or not he wants to testify. He is the one that could be going to prison for life. So it's completely his call. Obviously, I advise clients in all kinds of situations, and this would be no different. And as you understand, I can't, disclose the advice I gave here.
Mm-hmm. Right. How about, just before Michael goes back, how about the dad? The dad was in the courtroom. I think he was in a blue shirt most of the time. Mm-hmm. Were you able to have independent contact with him and watching his son? Because when we're watching him and he's on the stand, we don't know how somebody with all these law degrees and was in JAG and was in the military got to be the person that we saw on the stand. And I was wondering whether you had any discussions or input with Dad.
I don't know what you are implying by the person we saw on the stand. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, he was telling a story that seemed, he was telling a story that really seemed unbelievable. It seemed totally unbelievable. When we're watching it.
But that story, first of all, as far as, let me go back to the first part.
Yeah.
Discussions with his family. I've had discussions with his family and was authorized by him to have discussions with his parents over the last 2 years. So we've been in communication a lot. As far as what he had to say on the stand, I mean, what he said on the stand was consistent with his first police interrogation and with his second police interrogation. So I don't quite understand what he's supposed to say on the stand other than that which is consistent with those two interrogations, and also is his truth in this. So he is what's the right word? He has conviction that what he has been telling to law enforcement and on the stand is the truth. So that is what he got up on the stand and said. And I admitted to the jury in my closing that story is insane. That story is very difficult to believe. And I tried, I mean, I may be jumping ahead, but that's why I really did not want to force the jury into kind of a Karen Reed situation where they had to believe one of two theories. I didn't want to present an alternative theory. I wanted to just poke holes in the state's case. And that's really what I tried to focus on and take their attention away from Jim McIntyre. Because Jim McIntyre is not important. Sadly, what happened with Samantha, the third wife, that really doesn't have to do with whether or not Nicholas Kassotis murdered his second wife, murdered Mindi. Those aren't the issue. You know, the whether he murdered Mindi should come down to the evidence presented by the state around that particular crime.
Right, whether they could prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. No doubt about that. You're absolutely right about that.
And that's clearly what you had done up to the point your client took the stand. And if there were holes that you had punched in their case, he kind of tried to fill them in, and apparently the jury didn't buy it.
You know, I don't think he tried to he tried to fill holes that I had punched in my cross, but you know, I guess I'm not really going to get into his testimony other than to say that his testimony was consistent with the testimony he'd previously given in his interrogations, and once he decided to take the stand, any other testimony from him other than that which would have been consistent would have been terrible.
Yeah. I always tell people, Doug, that all the things that a lawyer does to create reasonable doubt that are great in a trial, that once the client takes the stand, you can forget all that. The case comes down to whether the jury either likes the client or believes the client once the client takes the stand. Because you did an amazing job. There's a question here from Sheila Duffy, as you know, is one of our early followers. Were you surprised by the verdict? Or was he surprised by the verdict? I mean, you can't tell us your conversation. Do you think he was surprised by the verdict, and were you surprised by the verdict?
I mean, I'm not going to speculate as to whether he was surprised by the verdict. And frankly, we didn't even discuss that. And of course, if we did, I wouldn't disclose it. Was I surprised?
And I'm trying not to ask you anything.
No. You're doing great. You're doing great. And I'm just being cautious. Was I surprised by the verdict? I would say that I don't know what you guys are like. One of my problems is that I can begin to drink my own Kool-Aid. And I'm sorry if that's offensive for people old enough to know what it means. Mm-hmm. But I tend to, the more I work on a case, one of my faults is that I tend to buy into my positions and perhaps overly buy into them. And even as we sit here today, right this moment, hours from the verdict, as far as from a legal standpoint, I still do not believe that the state presented evidence to allow a rational trier of fact to find guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. But we all know the reality. And you guys did not see, thankfully, I mean, you guys should be thankful too. You guys did not see those pictures of Mindi, which were, I don't have enough of a vocabulary, grotesque, horrific. They were just terrible. And I think if you're a juror and you see those pictures, that perhaps that reasonable doubt that's up here, maybe it gets lowered a little bit, because if the standard was more likely than not, then I would be like, okay, I'm not surprised. But I begged the jury to try to be objective about their viewing of the evidence. But it is hard for any individual to do that when you have seen what happened to Mindi Kassotis, and the state has only presented you with one individual that you can punish for that.
Yeah. Did the court limit the number of those images? Did the prosecution press for even more of them, or was there an agreement on just limited use?
Given my YSL experience, I'm very sensitive because in that case, the state really liked to pile on the photographs, and it was a constant battle. So I filed a motion in limine, I think before this trial even started, trying to keep those numbers of photographs limited. And we reached an agreement prior to trial. And honestly, I think we kept them to the bare minimum.
Yeah. Very civilized. Crazy idea, right? To actually work with the other side and the court to do that.
I had a very good professional relationship with the prosecutor in this case. I don't really have any complaints about her. The things that she did in trial were all legitimate tactics that can be taken by a party to a litigation. So someone asked me earlier, did you know she was going to defer opening? I had no clue she was going to defer opening. I suspected she might do it, but I didn't know it was going to happen.
Yeah, you took this case as a signed case. Was this an assigned case?
No, I was hired for this case.
You were hired for the case. All right.
Yeah, I have a lawyer friend in common with Nicholas Cassotis, and this friend recommended me to his family.
And it was a good recommendation because, lawyer likability is so very important to the jury. Has any of the jurors tried to reach out to you at all?
I don't know that any likability that I may have made any difference in this case, given the outcome.
Well,
I was hoping to speak to more jurors, but I was able to speak to one juror. And he was complimentary, but he just felt that even though the evidence was circumstantial, he thought that it was beyond a reasonable doubt. And of course, I'm not going to argue with him. Mostly I don't know what you guys do when you interview jurors, but mostly I try to do it so I can learn to get better the next time.
Of course.
I don't want to hear any praise. I want constructive criticism.
Right.
Yep.
And I got a little of that, which I was thankful for.
Oh, good. Yeah, likability, as I say, never underestimate the power of likability, and it goes for the attorney as well as the client. But Doug, you can only be so likable. You're very likable.
I don't think this came across, unfortunately, and I don't really know what I could have done about it. And obviously, I don't know Nicholas Cassotis as well as I knew Diamante Kendrick. I didn't spend that much time with him. It was over 2 years, but it's still not that much time. He's a very likable guy. And I don't mean that he's charming. I wouldn't say he's charming. He's just, he's a nice guy.
That's what we heard. We heard that from everybody. Family, friends, exes.
No one.
No, not mean, not dangerous, never angry.
No. And that's why I wasn't, even though these witnesses wouldn't talk to me, and I was, I guess, taking some risks and asking some of those questions, I kind of knew what the honest answer would be. Everyone finds him likable. He's not, I don't know what's going on with the murder of Mindi Kassotis, but it is very difficult for anyone that knows Nicholas Kassotis to believe that he could have done this.
Isn't that interesting? Because this is the question that I saw coming up a lot, and you don't have to answer it if you don't want. Laura Thompson, I have only one question. Where is Jim McIntyre, and why did he not speak out on Nick's behalf? Because when you led into that, I mean, here's a man who's Sony bought a story for $300,000. I mean, and we all know that in the business, that's a lot of money for a first-time writer's story. So somewhere somebody, liked him, trusted him, did business with him. So I guess that's the one question that came coming up is who is this Jim McIntyre? Where did he come from and where is he? And why couldn't anybody find him, and wouldn't that have made a difference in the trial?
And of course, it would have made a difference if we could have presented Jim McIntyre. And if I would be more of a stunt lawyer, I would have made the move of calling Jim McIntyre to the stand, and then any jurors that turned to look at the door.
Right. We've heard those stories. Right.
That might have been all of them.
But I was not going to do. I was not going to do that game. But you know, one of the problems with Jim McIntyre is, as I think my client said in his interviews, he doubted that was really even his real name toward the end. So I just had no way of finding Jim McIntyre. I have to go with the facts that I have in his defense, and that's one of the reasons you don't do police interrogations. And because of that police interrogation, I had to open with Jim McIntyre.
Yeah.
Because they were going to hear about Jim McIntyre.
So Donnie Wahlberg also, as you know, he's been on our show a lot. He certainly was consistent. His memory is sharp, associated for both of the families. So that the same thing you're saying, that he was consistent in his story. He was absolutely consistent in the story that he was telling.
And what I'd like to point out to your viewers who may not have watched the whole trial to hear this is, when one hears this story that hasn't really looked at this trial much, you would think, oh, he made this up after the fact once he was arrested. But as I pointed out to the jury, he lived this Jim McIntyre story. He lived this Jim McIntyre life for years and years before he was arrested. It wasn't something he created after the fact. Whether you believe there's a Jim McIntyre or not, you can't disbelieve that he and Mindi acted as if there was a Jim McIntyre long before it.
Well, they kept moving. I mean, it was like 50 moves over a period of 5 years.
I should show you. I mean, I can't, but if you could see my notes on all of his moves, constantly on the move, and with very little notice. Yeah. Very little notice.
And in theory, all of that driven by Jim McIntyre's urging, because they were in danger. Let me ask you this, and we talked about this last Friday. I asked if you felt that the jury might think that because he's this fiction writer, and to Linda's point, he's had some success at it, if they wouldn't think, well, maybe this is just another story. Do you think the case would have been better if he had not been a writer?
I don't know what would have saved this case. I mean, on direct, I think I asked him about, is this just another piece of fiction? Is Jim McIntyre just another piece of fiction that you've written along with all the other fiction? I mean, I wanted to give him the opportunity to address that exact issue. And he addressed it and said, no, it's not fiction.
That's smart to get out in front of that. But I just wonder if that was not on the field, didn't exist, whether or not it might have been even better.
As a defense attorney, I wish there was. I don't want any of my clients to talk to the police.
Yeah, I know. We hope that.
I don't want to be hamstrung like that. Yeah, I don't want to be hamstrung like that. I wish there was no Jim McIntyre. Yeah. But he's
going to tell you that anyhow, Doug. Romy, member for 4 months. Thank you. I just interject that. He's going to tell you that anyhow. So I have a question for you, and this is something that I posed yesterday. His story seems so outrageous, so ridiculous, so whatever, that it led me to say, well, does he have some type of, and I don't need your comment on this, mental disease? So the question I have is, did the judge ever broach having an independent analysis to see whether he was able to voluntarily make a decision whether to testify or not? Did the judge ever do that? Because I had cases where that's happened.
The judge did not raise that issue of mental competence. It's never been raised in this case. I think that I have an obligation as an attorney, if I believe there's a mental competence issue, to have evaluations and to present that to the court. And I did not raise any type of mental competency issue in this case.
Was there, Doug, ever any discussion with the DA's office? Did they ever suggest to you that the pregnancy, if there was one, was legit, and that they were considering some sort of secondary charge for death of an infant or fetus? Did they ever have enough info to suggest that was a factor?
No, because they knew as soon as they did the autopsy on Mindi that she was not pregnant. And it was a shock to everyone. I mean, I think it was a shock, at least in the interrogation, it was a shock to Nick.
It's just a strange case. Joey came, by the way. Thank you. Joey's here again. Gifted another Justice Sir TV membership so we can bring people like Doug to all of you here. It would be anything that you would have done now. You're not even looking back. You're probably you're probably exhausted, as we know, given everything that you can. Everyone, as I said, loves you, whatever. But there also was some issue. Mindi this was a long time relationship, marriage with him. And Mindi seemed to go with him everywhere and all. And the friends who had contact with Mindi didn't seem to indicate that they thought she was in danger at all. I don't understand how you can justify the two sides it appears that your client may have had. The one where the cops say he callously cut up her body, he killed her and cut up her body, and the side where all of her friends said well, she never expressed danger. She went along with everything. She was part of his life and what he was doing. I mean, they were doing it together.
Well, I think there was testimony that Mindi had told multiple friends that they were in danger, that they had a security detail, that they moved around.
But it wasn't in danger from him. He wasn't.
Oh, not a danger. No. There was never any indication that he was anything but a loving husband. I mean, there really wasn't. Her parents loved him. They were a tight-knit, in-laws, child, husband, living together, and clearly an unusual situation with strange restrictions, but every indication that the four of them all got along fabulously.
The parents testified for the prosecution, but they really were testifying for the defense. I mean, their testimony was helpful to him.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general their testimony was helpful to him because they backed up, a lot of his story about Jim McIntyre came out through the state's witnesses, through things that Mindi had said. Obviously pre-trial we had issues with discussing hearsay and residual hearsay rules and things we were going to allow in from that Mindi had told other people. But we worked all those out prior to trial, and I think I got everything in I wanted to get in.
What about the practice there in the courthouse? And I know early on when you were anticipating going there to Liberty County, not your backyard, not exactly. What was that experience like? Well,
you mean as far as it being not my normal stomping grounds?
Yeah, like not the neighborhood you're used to. Different court personnel, all of that.
Yeah, it's funny. Like geographically, this is the area I grew up in. Oh. I grew up 2 hours south of here in Jacksonville, Florida, and Jacksonville, Brunswick, Savannah, like the swath all the way up to Charleston. It's all very, very similar geography, similar people. So in a way, it was like trying a case back where I grew up. Yeah. I'm in courthouses all over Georgia. I always have to kind of reorient a little bit when I'm there. The people in this courthouse, all of them, were really welcoming, warm, explaining how they do things here because, shoot, every county in Georgia is different. And then within any given county or circuit, every judge is different. But everyone was great about telling me the lay of the land here. I mean, I really appreciated it.
Yeah, and for those whose ears
they were great.
Might have perked up when they heard Brunswick County. Of course, Ahmaud Arbery's case was in that county,
right?
Just south of you at Liberty, just south of there, right?
Yeah, Brunswick is like halfway. Well, it's more on the Jacksonville side between Savannah and Jacksonville. So Brunswick's maybe an hour from here, I'm going to guess. Yeah. And I used to know the name of that county, but I'm forgetting it. But yeah, Ahmaud Arbery was there. Obviously, Brian Steele was down there defending the prosecutor in that county. But sometimes I will say in Georgia you get some pretty bad home cooking in certain of these smaller towns, and I had none of that here. None of that.
I think that happens in Fulton County, but I'm not sure.
Were you surprised by the quickness of the verdict?
I thought it might happen like that.
Hour and 17 was the official time, but
yeah, I mean, we got past an hour. I'm like, oh, okay, we're past an hour. That's good. But hour 17, I mean, that's not good in this case. That's not good.
And that's from the point that they were basically dismissed to begin deliberation. So that's travel time, get organized, say their first couple of thoughts.
They've got to vote on a foreman. Think about that.
They got 12 counts. They got,
I'm not going to say anything bad about the jury, but it's just hard to imagine considering all the evidence in that brief a time period. Of course, they're considering it while they're sitting in the courtroom.
Sure.
And I get that.
Right. And we've talked about there's two types of jurors: the jurors that go in and say, okay, what do you all think? And then they decide, or the jurors who want to sit down and find for themselves. And clearly you had the first type of juror. What do you all think? And that was kind of it. But what do you think was the most significant fact in getting the conviction, the prosecution getting the conviction?
I think the same thing you guys think. You haven't said it, but I assume it's my client taking the stand.
Yeah, and quite often that's the case.
Or it's either that or the nature of what happened to Mindi Kassotis and those photographs. Yeah. Those are hard for me to look at, and I do this for a living. Yeah. I can't imagine the response of people that, fortunately for them, do not have to look at these kind of photographs. I'm sure these jurors will be seeing these photographs in their minds the rest of their lives, unfortunately.
As a matter of fact, the New York Times, if you haven't looked at it, did an article, I think the past week, talking about the PTSD that jurors have, that they can't put, some have to go into counseling. Some states have programs because they cannot put, when they're in murder cases, the photographs out of their mind. And that's when we talk about even autopsy pictures, that if you're not dealing with them, you don't understand what it is. They're just to other people, death is, let's face it, death is not a pleasant thing to look at, and under any circumstance.
It isn't, and I would rather not have to look at those photographs or deal with that either. I mean, when I was at U.S. Steel, I did some accident investigation, and there's things I saw there, 35 years ago that I still see.
Wow.
So that makes me wonder about the jury. I wasn't as in tune when they were being picked. What kind of occupation, age groups? What did that look like?
It's interesting. The jury was a very diverse jury. I'm trying to remember even how many Caucasians, just a few on the jury. Pretty much everyone in this jury pool, Hinesville, where this trial took place, is, and now I'm blanking because I'm tired, but there's the Army base there, big. This is not good that I'm forgetting, but there's a huge Army base there. And someone's going to say it in the comments, I'm sure, and help me out. But everyone on that jury is either, not I say everyone, I would bet 95% based on the pool, former military, married to someone that was in the military, married to someone that is in the military. In the military, I mean, there's a military connection with everybody there. So I don't know how that may have affected things. I don't know how much that was, this type of behavior is not tolerated in the military. I don't know if that hurt us at all.
Hunter, Fort Stewart, either of those make sense?
Yeah, Fort Stewart.
Okay.
I think it's Hunter Army Airfield maybe, and then it's Fort Stewart. And Fort Stewart's huge. And if you remember, we had that terrible shooting at Fort Stewart last week.
Oh, that's
in the middle
right.
Of this trial.
That's right.
Right during the trial, yeah.
Oh, man.
Now we have a lot of questions, but some of them I'm going to wait and answer if everybody's understand after Doug leaves, because Doug's gracious enough to come on and talk to us about his view.
I want him to see this at least before we let him go.
Doug, I truly appreciate how you defend clients, and I think that's all of it. And I just retweeted you. Somebody said, "How could you take a case like that?" We are defense attorneys. Everybody has a defense, And the client insisted that he was innocent. And it was it really is a case that's amazing in the sense that the woman, the wife, the victim, Mindi, never indicated that she was ever scared of him. And yet you have and never indicated that her story about this Jim McIntyre to friends was different than his. And yet you have this incredible story, and I'm not using story in terms of made up, an incredible
narrative,
a rendition of facts, and then she ends up, the way she ends up, and then he ends up, I guess, married again. And
I think with a case like this, most folks would expect either from the subject relationship or the prior wife or even the subsequent wife that there be some domestic violence issue, something, He has I know he didn't necessarily look great in court, and I don't know why he came across that way, because
he came across, in our opinion, he came across terrible.
I
know. We thought you had a shot before he took the stand.
I know, but he just, I don't know the right word to describe him. I don't want to say banal, but it's innocuous, like not someone you could ever expect this from. And just to repeat, all the witnesses testified that he was a kind, gentle person.
It truly is. It truly is something that really the psychologists have to study with his family and everything else and see what's happening. But you were great. You were terrific.
My card.
Yeah. And is there anything else you want to say before we let you go? Because we really appreciate you coming on the day that you had to close, get a verdict. I mean, get a sentence all at once. I mean, mind blowing.
Oh my God. Oh, someone asked something in all caps, so I'm required to respond to it. Asked Doug his thoughts on the prosecutor. I thought the prosecutor was very professional. She was efficient in going through things. She was reasonable in all of the objections that I would have and working out positions. She's tough, but she's fair and she's honest. And so I don't know what more I can want in a prosecutor.
Yeah, there were a lot of comments, especially in the cross-examination of your client and in her closing, that she was just a little yelly, a little loud. But that's a style thing, and whatever you do, you do. But those were things people specifically pointed out.
Well, she's from the city, so
Yeah, well, yeah.
So how people are from the city.
Yeah, we have another, before we let you go, just two more clients. Doug, I truly appreciate how you defend clients. That's from Joanne Jetaplatopoulos, who's one of our members here who really follows us and has followed you in your career. And thank you, Joanne, for that donation. And also, curiously, Doug is a great lawyer with a powerful gentleness.
That's a nice phrase.
That's a really nice
Powerful
phrase.
gentleness.
Can we put that on my website?
I think you can. Okay.
What about the Doug was completely out of his depths and should
Yeah.
never
So Brian wants to know,
no.
Doug, Brian B. Doug, is there a YouTube channel for you in the cards?
Ooh.
I don't think
It's
so.
a lot of work. Let me tell you, we have two jobs
so.
here, the law practice and all.
I'm still trying. I'm still struggling with getting my practice organized and off the ground, and it is all consuming, the business side that no one sees and everything else. And it's probably time for me to staff up a little bit. So I don't have time for anything else right now.
Yeah, it's stick with what you're doing. Believe me, it's do that. There will be plenty of time for goofing around on media when when you want.
Yeah.
Okay, buddy. What's next? You got something else on the calendar at this point?
I've got several criminal trials coming up, but I don't know exactly when they're going to be.
Okay.
Nothing I think that would be of enough interest to attract people.
Well, we have interest in you because we love you.
I told you guys about Cassotis before it was coming.
Right.
Yeah, we knew it was coming.
Other people it's on their radar, but I don't really have anything to tell you about.
Was Log Crime the pool or Court TV? Do you know?
Court TV
was Court TV, because I know that we had talked about it ahead of time. Yeah.
Court TV. I'm learning the differences. Court TV was the pool, which is why you had 3 cameras in there, because they descend as you know, with
Yes.
a large production team.
They bring the
Whereas
SAT
Law and
truck and
Crime-
everything. Mhm.
Law and Crime pretty much a single camera.
Right. Law and Crime
yeah.
ships their camera overnight, and single camera, basically. Yeah.
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 So this
yeah.
was Court TV that
It
was
was,
doing
yeah, it was well produced. It was.
Very well produced.
Yeah.
Very, yeah.
All right,
you
sir.
look- we'll see you
have
soon.
a long weekend. Take tomorrow off. Would you do that? Can you take tomorrow off?
My civil clients are already all over me. And I have to turn my attention to them in the morning because they have been patiently waiting, slightly patiently waiting for this trial to be over.
The business of law that no one sees.
So I have to go deal with that. But thank you again for having me on, okay?
Of course.
Thank you, Doug, always.
All right.
See you next time, bud. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. So let me have some questions, Michael, that I didn't want to put up with Doug. Sui generis, again, one of our supporters. Families can't believe their own children could be monsters because they would blame themselves. They can't deal. Ted Bundy was a smart lawyer, too. That's a very good point. Although I'd love to have the father on. He was there supporting his son. He was in the courtroom. I mean, he heard that his son believed that he wasn't his father anymore.
I mean, that would be a fascinating conversation because, that was one of his suspicions that his parents were behind the danger to he and his wife.
Right. But that they weren't his parents, that they really weren't his parents.
Yeah, and he even said when he was on the stand, I don't believe they're my parents. I mean, that's...
He wanted to change his name to Stark and all. So this is a very good question and all. So with regard to that, yes, welcome, great Sherry Schreiber,
welcome.
a new member. Thank you. Welcome, a very loving community. And Joey Kane, Joey,
he's back. Joey, I missed you yesterday. I missed you.
3 memberships, right?
Did I put too much pressure on you to get the cinnamon roll there and Dedham?
Right.
I was just kidding.
And by the way, I have to put this. Thank you very much, Lucy. Chukan with Lucy, sweetheart. You look beautiful today. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. But let's talk about this because the things that we don't want to put Doug in a bit. I really saw mental disease with this guy. I mean, I just saw. It
seemed very sociopathic. And Doug kind of mentioned it as being sort of detached or, there wasn't the right emotion, it seemed to me, at the right time when talking about certain things.
But the story is so what was amazing to me was with the story, it was just so fantastic. And you had parts where he got $300,000 from Sony for a story. He was in the JAG. People came and said he was not violent. I don't understand what happened here.
That fantastical story, part of the problem was this is a guy that deals in minutia, right? Whether it's as a JAG officer, as an attorney. Those who get an LLM, for those who may not understand the upper degree than an attorney, a JD is a Juris Doctorate. All attorneys have to have that in general. There are exceptions before taking the bar in a given state. Most don't get an LLM, which is a master's in law. I don't even know what the second L is for. I'm not clearly I can't get one. I'm not sure what the second L means, but it's usually a very bookish type of advanced degree. Mm-hmm. It's not a litigator, trial lawyer type thing. But my point is those folks are like steel traps when it comes to details. Remember, this is a guy that testified that he kept a spreadsheet of his wife's symptoms when she was going through what maybe was the COVID era, maybe it was something else that she had. I mean, that's detail. So when you get to telling the story and you don't even remember, filling out normal employment paperwork like an I-9 and a W-4, all of those, that inconsistency to me made me think this isn't a true story. It's got to be made up. And I do wonder if the guy hadn't sold a story, hadn't had a history of successful fiction, that wouldn't have helped him.
It
gives people an easy out to say, this guy makes up things.
If this were a death penalty case, right, you'd have a mitigation team who would start right from the beginning. Somebody had to see something. He's in JAG. Now, I know it's very hard to get military records, but people had to work with. We had the one woman who did work with him, and she loaned him $198,000 because he took her to tour for him.
I remember.
But you had all these things going on. Every single person he knew had to see something where he lived, where he went. I mean, you had all of this stuff happening. I mean, we never heard. Supposedly she's pregnant. She's going to the doctor. It's not the name of a doctor. We don't see bank records. It's such a fantastical story.
Well, I think it's just inconsistent with who he was trained to be and what his work history was. If you had somebody go in there that's a little scattered, a little disheveled, and couldn't, remember what they had for breakfast, then it would make sense that this person doesn't have these details that are now the focus of this investigation. But it just it's like two people. One very anal, does everything detailed, and another just fly-by-night, loosey-goosey kind of guy. That's two people. It's not
but how
just
does
one guy.
Mindi move with him 50 times over the period of time?
So that's a maybe bigger question about her than him. Is she just is she truly believing the story? Therefore, she fears her for her own safety and is motivated by that. Was she just gullible? Unfortunately, we'll never know.
Yeah. We'll never know. Does she fall? Because it's unbelievable. And then he ends up marrying a third wife. I mean, I don't get it. He's like the cases you talked about, right?
You weren't attracted to him as a woman. You're not attracted to him.
No,
okay.
Absolutely not. Kay Schmidt, thank you again.
Thank you, Kay Schmidt.
Kay Schmidt for more of the membership. No, but there had to be a history of him having a severe mental decline. There had to be. It had to be. He was in JAG. He prosecuted. He defended. People had.
Yeah, but there was no evidence of any sort of falling out with any of those professions, or until he entered this weird nebulous employment world where there's no record keeping and it's orchestrated by Jim McIntyre somehow. Up to that point, pretty clean.
Yeah, but who? When he deals, for instance, when he dealt with Sony, all right, he had to have a lawyer, I assume, or maybe he just dealt.
Well,
with
he said
Sony.
he had an agent and a lawyer.
He said he had an agent and a lawyer. That's where some of the money was. So where are they in terms of the dealing with him? Did they see him? Did he talk about them?
I'm not so sure.
I'm sorry.
Other than apparently there was a $300,000 deposit into some account that was orchestrated by Jim McIntyre. I'm still not certain about that whole thing.
Is he Jim McIntyre? That's my question. Is he Jim McIntyre?
Oh, I think that's very possible. Yeah.
Is he the person that is he Jim McIntyre? Is he multiple personalities?
Could be.
Or does he made a personality so that he becomes Jim McIntyre? He's got the thing. But then where's this $3 million in cash he said he had? Where
32 million.
32 million.
Jim McIntyre says he has 32 million. That's what he told me. Yeah. Tell you what, if somebody tells me I have 32 million, I'm probably going to verify that. I'm not just going to say, okay, thanks. Let me know if I can get some allowance from my 32 million.
He had to make it up, and I think that maybe he's Jim McIntyre, and whatever it is, there's some severe mental disease. I really want to talk to the family. That's who I want to talk to. I want to talk to his father. I want to talk, even though they and remember, sometimes the other parents live with him. Mindy's parents live with him.
Oh,
right?
That whole thing was bizarre. And don't forget Rusty. Come on.
Rusty. What happened to Rusty the dog, by the way? What happened to him, though? Did we ever hear?
I don't think it was a suspicious death. I don't think. If somebody remembers differently, speak up. But I don't think it was a suspicious death. Yeah. But that dog moved with him everywhere. Yeah. Until unable to do so.
I think he may have been Jim McIntyre. He's creating this whole, but for what end was he creating this fear in his life?
Well, that was motivation was also another very nebulous kind of thought. Can I ask you? Oh, we can talk about Aiden's case.
Yeah, we can talk about Aiden.
Let's wrap up.
Let's wrap
up
this,
thoughts
on this.
It was all very, vague in terms of what we were talking about. We're talking about his earnings. We're talking about his writing skills and the moving all the time. The motive, which of course we all know you don't have to prove, was vague. Was it because he wanted to get out from under the $1.5 million that he owed Heather Thomas?
But isn't that a motive to kill Heather Thomas, not a motive to kill Mindi?
I know, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. And I'm still a little confused too about why the fear that they had to move around so much, what some sort of subterfuge going on with the military service that he had. And then,
he's trying to say that maybe the foreign agents or whatever are after them. But then when does he start creating that fear with Mindi, and why? Or, he thought his first wife, who took his dog, apparently, according to our chat, when he was arrested, took Rusty, was having an affair, and then she got married the day after. Was that it? Was he having an affair with somebody, and this was a way to maybe he thought maybe Mindi would leave him or something, and she didn't leave him?
It's just so atypical of the cases we see involving spousal violence, murder, or otherwise. There's always some history of domestic violence. There's always some discord in the mix, or there's been a history with a prior significant other. None of that existed here. Or there's the big life insurance, and neither of them had any life insurance.
Right, no life insurance. So the question is, who's Jim McIntyre, and did he just really want to get rid of Mindi because he had created so many lies? There was no way out of that life. There was no way out of that life unless he killed her.
Yeah.
I mean,
a fascinating case.
It is a fascinating case.
And we again appreciate Doug coming on both last week and tonight to talk about what was definitely a difficult job.
Yeah, it's right. Someone says this is giving me Shutter Island vibes. Yeah, that's interesting because I did love that movie. That does it does exactly. Was he poisoning her and she found it? I don't know. But I've decided that he's created the whole Jim McIntyre. This is my decision. He's created the whole Jim McIntyre, whatever it was, to get money, to not pay things, they didn't have money to pay.
So he has this alternate persona to take the heat for anything he does that's bad.
Right, and hopefully his wife leaves when she doesn't leave, and he kills her.
Well, I will tell you this definitively: it will not be Jim McIntyre sitting in the cell for the rest of his life. And the ultimate sentence, by the way, because there were options: life without parole, life with parole, but he got life without. Plus, all those other charges led to it's life without parole plus 25. Some of them were concurrent, but a couple of them had to be consecutive. Always thought it's, kind of interesting to have life without parole and then add years onto that.
Somebody's going to want to study this case. There's going to be some psychologist who wants to study the case.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get somebody on in the future to talk about it after we get through. And let's talk about this. We were going to play some of his testimony, but I don't think we really have time for that because you all saw his testimony. It was, I don't even have a word for it. Strange is not right. Bizarre is not right. Yeah. Made up is not right.
And not just the cross. I mean, Doug had to walk him through, some pretty interesting elements of his story because he had to get out in front of them. Mm-hmm. So if you get a chance, got a couple hours, that's some amazing, theater.
But Dad, if you like, Dad and Mom, if you'd like to come on, we'd love to talk with you because I know it had to be hard sitting there watching your son disavow you, thinking you're behind it. And we really, because the family was there, watching him, they must have thought, what went wrong? Our son was a lawyer, right? And JAG in the military. What went wrong? We'd love to speak with you because we think that whatever thoughts you have, maybe it'll be helpful for other families who will support their families no matter what the situation, because no matter what, we need to know what went wrong here so maybe it doesn't go wrong on another person.
Yeah. And this is an extreme situation, but any parent wonders when their kid does something a little wrong, and I mean a little wrong, like you didn't take that library book back, what the hell's wrong with you? They always wonder,
what did I do?
What did we do?
What did I do? Right.
Okay, so let's whipsaw over now with Debbie's question.
Okay.
You want to
read that?
I ask you a thought on what is next in Aiden's case? Oh boy. Honestly, seems like the judge does not want to rule on anything, and my worry is Aiden will do something that will get him into trouble with this crazy group. Here are my thoughts on that's kind of a multi-part question. I think Aiden is very passionate, very emotional, and very outspoken, but smart enough after 2 years, and it was 2 years ago they threw him in jail, to temper what he's done, okay? And if he does get close to the line, I think the judges who have seen this play out are far less sensitive to it, far less likely to go down that road. And we saw yesterday with Cosgrove using the ratchet ladder, which is Aiden Carney's little, who's the worst ratchet, and it's almost like an NC2A playoff. He took that to the judge and whined about it. Said, "Look, Judge, look what he's doing now." I think the court's not going to fall for that crap anymore. So unless Aiden goes really over the top, I think he's safe on that. And what's going to happen next? We talked about it yesterday. We ranted about it. You ranted. I bitched and moaned.
I ranted about it, and I think we're going to cut that rant. People have been asking for it over the weekend. I ranted about it, especially when you, especially if indeed titles are changed, how you present them to the grand jury on Aiden's show. That's outrageous, in my opinion. But
it's illegal. It's a crime, and it's that was the genesis for all the charges. So, right. And we talked about that with him on the courthouse steps yesterday. So, what's going to happen in reality? We know that Tim Bradle, and we hope to have him on. He told me more than once, "Oh, come on,
Michelle.
got to work it out." Yeah, Michelle, I got to work it out. But he has to be careful. It's an active case.
Right.
But he wants to give, Judge Doolin a shot to do the right thing. And so this next hearing, which I have on my calendar here somewhere, is going to be very telling.
Yeah, September.
Very
I forget
telling.
what it was. Yeah, I think the next hearing is going to be very telling because he took a lot of things under advisement.
Yes, and the
so-
last two, they've ended up in front of Doolin the last couple of times. So he seems to be the guy. And now he's, it's the 24th of September is the next hearing.
Yeah, but I was still like, come on, Doolin. I mean, just get. I mean,
Well, of course, I said,
hold the feet to the fire.
Have the balls to do your job.
Right.
Because until you do, the Commonwealth is going to take advantage of defendants.
On a constant basis.
And maybe it's Aiden today, maybe it's you tomorrow, maybe it's me next week.
It could be, could easily be. I mean, you had the balls to sue them, okay? For.
I wonder if that had been in state court, it would have been different grounds for the suit. But I wonder if it had been in state court, if they would have jerked us around a little bit. We got, we filed in federal court and we got the recovery and the remedy we needed.
That's on the First Amendment issue that try to keep us from walking across the sidewalk and getting stories.
Yeah. So anytime you see that big picture, like the one Aiden uses as his backdrop that has the masses of people out there, that's because we did that lawsuit. The fact that everybody was in tune to this case, that's Aiden. Yeah. The fact that they got a chance to be there to vent their celebration, that's because we sued to make it happen.
So. Absolutely made it happen. A great lawyer. And Aiden's also, by the way, doing his show at the Wilbur, a big venue on September 12th, which is interesting because it's before those motions come back, where he's going to be interviewed by Auntie Deb. We are buying tickets for some of our supporters there that have been on our show that helped us that we did not know when we went up there. And I think we're emailing them now. We do have some comments about that. Joey Kane said Cosgrove was big mad about Ratchet Madless scene.
Yeah, he was not seated high enough, apparently, according to Cosgrove.
Yeah. And
Let me just put Cosgrove, you will not be in the Final Four, which is scary because there's so many competitors. And I think most people could guess who was the top seed. Yeah,
Jen McKay was the top seed. I guess it. All right, but we do have one leftover question from Cassotis. This is from Alicia Southern, right? Alicia Southern. Would you have tried to plead insanity if you were representing him? Insanity is really hard, and if the client's not going to consent to any type of treatment or said they're not insane and this is their case, you really can't. And to plead insanity, it's different. Can you plead mental disease or defect? But then you need the cooperation of the client. To say that you have some kind of mental disease or defect. And clearly he was not cooperating with anything with regard to that.
No, and if there's no history, what are you going to use? This is, it just happened. There's zero history. As Doug pointed out, there was nothing they could even use to consider that. So.
Yeah, it really was. So I don't know. I think it was a very hard case, but I'll tell you what, dealing with him for a period of time, Doug said he was very easy to deal with and all sorts of stuff, But I'll tell you, this story, I'd put him, I don't know where I'd put him. I've never seen anything like him. And Ted Bundy that people have talked about, but Ted Bundy, he had the charming, he was a serial killer. We have Shabusiness, the woman who cut her boyfriend's head off and put him in the bucket. We've seen some of these other kids who put their parents' heads in soup bowls and all. But this one doesn't just go with, the issue with this one is not just the crime; it's the story for 5 years, and then it's parsed with some parts of reality of getting $300,000 for writing a horror story with Sony. So I don't know.
Yep, it was. That's why people were kind of late to come to the case, and now they're like, oh, I missed it. I know a lot of folks are going to rewatch it because it has all of these fascinating elements. But it was today was day 8 done.
Yeah, Brooklyn's reminding you of Sarah Boone. I don't even think her story was as good as that, but we're going to try to talk to her.
Yeah, we are going
to. She has a thing. She says that not everybody hates her, and that's what
just because I put that headline out there. Maybe if I'd offered up that headline in Norfolk County, then maybe Kay Peter would have changed it to something else.
Right.
Made it more nefarious.
Right.
But yeah, when I said everybody hates Sarah Boone, she wrote back in X, I think it was on an X post, not everybody.
Not everybody.
And
right.
I've reached out now twice to say, well, we'd love to hear your thoughts
Yeah.
on why that is.
Yeah. YSL, by the way, was Doug's first criminal trial. I don't know if he had some kind of minor drug thing, or not that he had drug, but some kind of minor case in between. But this was his second major case. I mean, out of maybe 3 cases, 2 of them have been murders. You know, Doug is very likable in the courtroom, and his skills transcend. And he had talked to us earlier about this case, and he's right. The state did not have a murder weapon. The state did not know when.
No cause of death.
Died. No cause of death. The state had none of that.
No, not even where the murder happened. I mean, you know, all of these basics they didn't have. But those were the holes that we were pointing out were good for the defense. And even if Nick Kassotis, in testifying on his own behalf, didn't fill those holes, he created bridges over them. I'll put it that way.
He's going to be studied. He's going to be studied. Well, he's not going to have a great time in prison, having been. He's going to
be one of these guys that manipulates. He's an attorney. He's going to work his ass off, you know, helping other inmates.
Right. He's going to be other inmates. He's going to be the attorney for other inmates. He's going to create fantastic.
That's how he's going to stay alive.
Right. That's exactly right. That's how he's going to stay alive. Anyhow, it's been an interesting
Crazy.
4 days, and tomorrow, by the way, before we talk about tomorrow, please hit subscribe, like, share, and notify on our channel, please. All subscribe, like, share, and notify. Try to get us next to the next mark, which is the 30,000 mark, with all of you. And you know, we depend on all of you, and that's why we're able to give back to the community. That's why Michael made his. I thought it's actually his 18th or 19th trip up there. I wasn't sure. No, I did, because I did have to go back and look. But it's shocking how many times we've been up to Norfolk County, and we're going to be up again more. You know, we still have Sandra Mertz
for sure.
on, and then we are working on, by the way, and I've been promising you, who killed Stephanie. The question was how we're going to do it. We've been actually contacted, as I said, by a number of people. If anyone knows Colleen Pulver, she contacted me, and we tried to reach out to her through our producer. She said, and I'm going to read this to you. My 21-year-old daughter and her puppy were murdered in my house in front of me on June 27, 2024. All true. Initially, I didn't want media coverage, but I've since changed my mind. The prosecutor is playing the plea game with the murderer, and our family's not having it. There are a few people I trust to tell her story, and you are one of them. Unbeknownst to her, he had been stalking and spying on her for months. The murderer is an ex-coworker from Walgreens. You can read about her on my social media, or just Google her, Amanda Pulver, 21, New Jersey. I do want to talk to you, Colleen, and I do want to do an interview with you separately, and I want to showcase her case, and maybe try to, if this hasn't worked out, talk to the prosecutor. But I do want to take you up on this, which leads me to the 3 things we're going to do. We are getting them ready now for September, and they're either going to be, and maybe you can help us here, Justice Served TV The Hunt, because one will be Who Killed Stephanie. We want to talk about Colleen Pulver. No, we know who killed her daughter, but the hunt is the hunt for justice on there. And then, of course, we have the other case out of Boston that we talked about, that we want to showcase. And I have about 1,000 documents on that. And her name is Karina Holmer, Holmer. It's another case back from the 60s in Boston, okay? And so what we think we're going to do is we're just going to tape some episodes without you guys first, or maybe one, and then continue on with separate episodes for the solve, to have you try to almost not serial, but have serial episodes on each one of these cases. So if you have another title that you like better than Justice Served TV The Hunt, because we want to keep them in the Justice Served TV family, maybe put it in a separate portal here. Our producers, by the way, are just hearing about this for the first time, just so you know. But please email us at justiceservedtv at gmail.com and let us know, and keep sending in things that you want us to look at. We're only 2 people. We have full-time law practices, so some of these other things that we wanted to get to have been on the side, but we think after Adelson we'll be able to get to them maybe as September starts, after Adelson finishes. So thank you much for your support.
Yeah.
Subscribe, like, share, notify, please.
All right, till next time. Michael Bryant, try to do the right thing.
Tomorrow, Adelson, it's Fridelson.
Fridelson
tune in.
tomorrow, Wendy part 2.
Wendy
Yep.
part 2, 6 o'clock. See you then.